You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
You.
Excellent.
Cheers.
Excellent. Okay, we're looking for, where's Harry? Is he on?
I am on. Harry Smith, town planner.
Okay, excellent. And I see Joe Chadwick. Joe, you're here. Looks like.
Joe Chadwick is present.
And Fred Russo. Fred, you're here.
Fred Russo present.
And Joe Viuso, I believe, checked in. Joe, you're here. Marcy, do we see Marcy?
I don't believe Marcy is on yet.
Okay.
I did see her this afternoon. I know she's going to be attending.
Okay. And Sharon, is Sharon here?
I think Sharon mentioned she might not be here.
She's supposed to be absent the next two meetings, I think she said. Fred Russo.
Yeah. 2 meetings, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
Correct.
exactly.
Okay. And then Massimo, I see Massimo's here.
Yes, Massimo's here.
Great, thanks, Massimo.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're waiting for Marcy, and Harry and Evan is here, and I assume Michelle is also, I see her name, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I see, is Sharon here? I see Sharon's iPad, I don't know.
I don't know if that's her or somebody else.
Okay.
She doesn't typically have her name listed as that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. There's Marcy.
Marcy, can you hear us?
I can now. Sorry for the delay. I had to update the program.
Not a problem. Okay, I think everyone's here, and I have 7:02 p.m., so I guess we can get started. We'll call this meeting to order of the Branford Planning and Zoning Commission. It is Thursday, January 19th, 2023. I have 7:03 p.m. Introduce members of the commission and staff. Commission member Joe Chadwick. Joe, are you here?
Joe Chadwick is present.
Commission member Fred Russo. Fred, are you here?
Fred Russo present.
And Joe Viuso. Joe, are you here?
Joe Viuso's here.
Marcy Pelusi. Marcy, are you here?
Marcy's here.
Massimo Liguri. Massimo, are you here?
Massimo's here.
And I believe Sharon Hutner is not going to make this meeting, she indicated. Our staff this evening is our town planner, Harry Smith. Harry, are you here?
I am.
Our assistant planner, Evan Brining. Evan, you're here?
Here.
And our clerk recording secretary, Michelle Martin, is also present. We'll follow our normal format for public hearings. That is that the applicant goes first. After the applicant goes, the public is allowed to comment on what the applicant presents. And so I'll ask Evan to review the process to participate remotely in the hearing. After public comment, the applicant has a response to an opportunity to response. And actually, before we open up the public, we usually have a staff report and questions and comments from the commission before we open up to the public. And then we may or may not continue the hearing. It's not unusual to continue hearings. We have a number of continued hearings that on this agenda. I have a hearing that's been continued and maybe continued again. So with that, I'll ask Fred to read the notice of public hearing. Fred, can you do that?
Fred Russo, I spoke to Michelle. She said there were no public hearings that had to be read tonight. So I'll take her at her word, and I have nothing to report.
Okay, I think all the public hearings are continued public hearings, so we don't have to read it again. Thanks, Fred. And Evan, can you review with us the process for participating in the public hearing once we get to that point?
Sure. If you'd like to participate during a public hearing, you can press raise your hand down at the bottom of your screen. There's a reactions button. Once you select that, it presents an option to raise your hand. You can also type into the chat that you'd like to participate. And if you are dialing in by phone, you can press *9 to indicate that you'd like to speak. And we ask that everybody please state their name before their comments or questions.
Okay, Chuck Anders, Chair, and I have forgot to do that as well. So thank you, Evan. With that, we'll move to our public hearing items. Our first item is 94 East Main Street LLC, care of Stacy Rue, applicant and owner. Special exception coastal site plan construction of 3 two-family dwellings at 94 East Main Street. This is an application that was opened on December 8th. It's been continued, was continued to our last meeting, continued again. I received lots of public comments, and I understand the applicant has requested that this matter be continued again. Is that correct, Harry? What's the status here?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. The applicant's representative, Jim Preddy, is in attendance, but so chime in if he feels he needs to. But I received an email from him this afternoon requesting a continuation of the hearing to February 16th and also granting any necessary time extensions to achieve that.
Okay, February 16th. So our next meeting is February 2nd. So that's a stacked agenda. That would not be a good meeting for this. So February 16th is not the next meeting, but the following meeting, the 2nd February meeting. Is that correct?
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Okay, Mr. Preddy, do you have anything to add?
No, Jim Preddy, when I contacted Harry about continuing it, he pointed out the agenda for the 2nd, so that's why we requested the table until the 16th.
Okay. And I had made a suggestion that if you continue this to the 16th, you may want to have some contact. There's been some neighbors have been, expressed serious, as I'm sure you've seen. I don't know what your status or plans are, but you may want to have some communication there. That's just some suggestion.
Agreed. There was a number of things that I received today that I haven't not had a chance to speak with the owner about. So that was the reason for the continuance.
Okay. Okay, so if you're here on that, and I see a number of familiar faces here, that this matter then will be continued to our February 16th meeting. That's also going to be a remote meeting, 7 o'clock as well. So, so thank you anyone who's here for that item. So then we'll continue item number 1, and then that brings us into item number 2, which is Matthew Reel, applicant owner, 0 Bartholomew Avenue, a special exception coastal site plan, oversized accessory structure. Is the applicant ready to proceed with that one?
Yeah, Chuck, Jim Preddy again, Cristolo Engineering. We presented this December 8th meeting. The issue became clear at that meeting with my discussions with staff that we misinterpreted the undersized lot regulation, and the particular parcel that the garage is going on did not predate 1956. Came out. It was actually cut off a larger piece in, I think, 73. So we could not take advantage of the undersized lot. So that meant we needed relief from the front and rear setback because of the very small nature of the lot, which we then went back to ZBA. We received those two variances 2 days ago, and now here we are back. So we generally meet all the other bulk standards, but because the small nature of the lot and the road and the situation that we needed, and it's not a very big garage. It's only 26 by 34, 28 by 34. We needed relief from the front and rear setback, where if we could have used the undersized lot, we met those setbacks, but so we dealt with that and we came back and here we are.
Chuck, interesting. Thank you, Mr. Preddy. Yes, I recall you did present that, and that was, I think, Town Planner Smith highlighted the need for the variances. Harry, do you have any staff comments on this one?
Sure, Harry Smith, Town Planner. I'm just going to share my screen and very quickly recap my report from the 8th of December. Can everyone see the screen I've got up? I'm sort of moving through the staff comments. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there really is, as Mr. Preddy said, there's really not a whole lot to this. But there is, with the assumption that it was going to be the small undersized lots provision could apply. The zoning standards schedule contains some entries for the R1 zone. So those would need to be updated to reflect the R3 requirements, even though they've been varied to allow the proposal to go ahead. So there's really no issue, just to clean it up. And I have a few words I can add to this recommended conditions to take care of that. So that's this section here I'm circling. The minimum lot area, for example, needs to be changed to 15,000 rather than, I think it's down there as 6,000 for the lot area and 4,000 for the per unit area, and need to add a floor area ratio. Just this is all taken care of with the new variances. The driveway comment I had was incorrect. I was incorrect. I was looking at the 28 foot, which is the dimension of the entire face of the garage, but the driveway is only 24, complies completely, as well as the 30-foot requirement. The coastal site plan, I think I mentioned back in the 8th that given the proximity of the cleared area and where it's proposed for construction to the tidal wetlands, the Connecticut DEP recommends provision of a vegetative buffer, ideally up to 100 feet, but that's not really practical to allow construction of this building and use of the property. And they do cite that, a lesser vegetative buffer, lesser width is also beneficial. So in this case, I've recommended that all portions of the property within 15 feet of the flagged tidal wetland should be planted with native vegetation, suitable and characteristic of species found adjacent tidal wetlands and so forth, with the exception of the area of the proposed structure in a 10-foot perimeter around it to allow maintenance of it and so forth. So portions of the perimeter and the structure would kind of get closer to the tidal wetland, but I mean, that would allow this to go ahead. Otherwise, you would be, really cutting the proposed building they'd like to build and create a difficult geometry. But I think that would address, particularly up in the corner of this property, just kisses the tidal wetland. So there's one area in the, and I can pull the plan up for a second. So if you see this area right here under my cursor, there's the tidal flagged wetland boundary. And that is the northeast corner of the property. So they have a tidal wetland buffer here, vegetative buffer, I think, addresses the requirements of the coastal site plan section of the regulations. So going down the staff recommendation, prior to issuance of zoning permit, just proposing that installation is here twice, really strike out shall be installed is not needed here. A. Submittal of evidence of the recording of the deed restriction prohibiting the separate sale of two properties. Just to go back to the plan again. This is the main property, 9 Bartholomew with the existing house. This is 0 Bartholomew. Here is a fee simple right-of-way strip of land that's owned by the land trust that provides access to the tidal wetland. So a variance was granted to allow the accessory use on 0 to be considered, frankly, accessory to the house on number 9. But in order to maintain that accessory principal relationship, the two properties need to be legally tied together. I think the commission did this previously for another somewhat similar situation. It was a property, I think a garage was on it, was separated from the main property by a road. It was down in Hotchkiss Grove, I believe. I can't remember the address off the top of my head, but it was less than a year ago. I think commission approved that. So this is a somewhat similar condition, submittal of evidence according to deed restriction prohibiting the separate sale or any portion thereof without written approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then having it reviewed in form of content, myself and the town council. C here would ask for the depiction of all portions of the property within 50 feet of tidal wetlands located off private vegetated buffer, just as I explained, exempting the area of the structure and 10-foot perimeter around it. And this also adds that the line of silt fencing be augmented by hay bales, just in case the storm event and proximity to tidal wetlands give it a little more oomph. Typical standard requirement number 2, erosion sedimentation controls maintained throughout construction. And 3, another typical standard condition, if there's a dust issue, this allows ZO to request and require that that be dealt with. And then standard lighting condition. We haven't seen any lights. I don't know if any lights are proposed on the structure. I imagine they probably will be, since we should require compliance with the typical lighting standards. That's it.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Harry. Questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Hearing none, let's open up to the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, do you see anybody?
I do not see anyone at this time.
Okay, one more time, any member of the public wish to comment? Seeing none, I think we can close the public portion of this. Does the applicant have any further comments?
Jim Preddy again. No, the only thing I will note is that the silt fence location noted on the plan will have to move farther for the plantings that we're going to add for the buffer. But other than that, the rest of the comments were pretty standard in nature.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Preddy. Any questions or comments by commission members or staff before we close this?
Just in case Mr. Preddy has any question, I just want to say that we'll propose a section 1, Roman numeral 3, which would say revise the zoning standard schedule to reflect the requirements of the R3 zoning district and provide an entry for the floor area ratio. And so there'll be a requirement of change of the plans before zoning permits issued for the structure.
So Harry, just a question. If it's unheated storage space over a garage, what's the floor area?
It's got a clearance, right? I don't know if there's any proposed. Is there any proposed that means we can work that out?
Yeah, there is portions of that upper floor that is greater than 7 feet. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it might be pretty minimal, but just
okay.
Dotting I's and crossing T's.
Sure.
Any other comments? Not then we'll close this matter as a public hearing. This is something probably we can take up a little later. Thank you, Mr. Preddy. Brings us then to item number 3, which is Gene Faricelli, applicant and owner, 104 Cherry Hill Road, special exception, oversized accessory structure, garage. Is the applicant ready to proceed on that one?
Yes, Jim Preddy again, Priscolo Engineering here in Branford. I'm going to share my screen. hopefully y'all can see that. This is the property located at 104 Cherry Hill Road. This is the access. This is a rear lot. The access is through this driveway right away that goes down this way to Cherry Hill Road. There's an existing house here and little outbuilding in the back here. What they want to do is, and I can zoom in here. They want to build this garage. It's a single story. It's only 15 feet high from the slab. In roughly in the same location where they have an area for parking now. And it's here so that because of the grades, it's adjacent to you can see the walkway that goes into the side door of the house. But we are a little bit bigger than 750 square feet. I think it's like 1050. So it's about 300 square feet bigger. And it is taller than 15 feet only in the fact that the ground slopes away. So the back is taller than the front. And so this is what the garage looks like. The front of the building will have, and it's just a hatch on this plan, but at the front of the building will have the same stone facing that the house has. The rest of the back will be clapboard siding, but you can see here in the side picture that the ground steps back so that the foundation will step down. And this is why it's higher than 15 feet because of the slope. But that's it. It's another accessory structure. We meet the zoning setbacks, and East Shore has already been dealt with because this is on a septic, and I think that's it.
Chuck, understand. Thank you, Mr. Preddy. Evan, did you prepare the staff report on this one?
I did. Like Mr. Preddy had stated for us, it's about 1,000 square foot accessory structure. Being that it's over the 750 square foot limitation that we have, it's required to get a special exception from this commission. They meet the bulk requirements of the R5 district. This is an interior lot, so 50-foot setbacks had to be applied to all property lines. No landscaping plan was required, and they meet the parking requirements. And based on the application materials, here's that the special exception criteria are generally satisfied. Staff recommends one finding and one condition. Our first finding is that subject to compliance with the conditions listed below, the commission finds that the proposed use of the property is consistent with the special exception criteria. And then condition number 1 is prior to the issuance of a zoning permit, erosion control measures shall be installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer.
Chuck, understand. Thank you, Evan. Questions, comments from any commission members or staff before we open it up to the public? Hearing none, then let's open up to the public. Does any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, do you see anybody?
Sorry, I do not see anyone.
Okay, one more time. Anyone from the public wish to comment? Doesn't appear as if we have anyone who wishes to comment.
I like these applications.
So we'll turn it back. Any further comments, Mr. Preddy?
No, sir. Thank you.
Any questions, comments from commission members or staff? Hearing none, then we'll close this item as a public hearing. And again, this is something I think we can take up in a little bit.
Thank you.
Mr. Preddy. Okay, that brings us then to minutes. So we had minutes from 3 meetings here, one 12/1, 12/28, and January 5th. I guess we should start with the special meeting for Thursday, December 1st. That was the special meeting with the Coastal Vulnerability Group, and those minutes, I believe, are sent out. We'll start with those. Does anyone have any questions or comments about those, commission members? And if not, does someone want to make an appropriate motion?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
Okay, motion by Fred to approve the minutes for the December 1 meeting. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Joe Chadwick, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick, you in favor?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso,
So in favor.
Marcy,
Marcy is in favor.
and the chair is also in favor, so those minutes are adopted. So let's go to the second set, which is the December 28th meeting. And again, that was our special short meeting, I believe, if we're just approving a bond. Does someone want to make an appropriate motion? with
Recording in
respect-
progress.
Oops. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Does someone want to make a motion with respect to approval of the December 28th, 2022 minutes?
Chadwick will make that motion.
Motion to approve by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
Fred Russo seconds.
Fred, we'll give it to Fred. Fred seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick in favor?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And the chair is also in favor. So the December 28th meeting minutes are approved. That brings us then to our last meeting, which was our January 5th, 2023 minutes, which were also circulated. Someone want to make a motion with respect to those minutes?
Fred Russo makes a motion.
Motion made to approve the minutes by Fred. Is there a second?
Joe Vayuso second.
Second by Joe Vayuso. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
So in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And chair is also in favor, so those minutes are approved. So let's take up the public hearing items that we could take up. The first one was Matthew Reel, 0 Bartholomew Road, the special exception coastal site plan for accessory structure. And Harry, I think you had the staff report that you made some tweaks with. You want to pull that up?
Sure. Harry Smith, Town Planner. So you should be able to see the staff recommendations. So just to recap, I was proposing that on 1A, the last 3 words be removed, shall be installed, be deleted. And then under 1C, we add a Roman numeral 3 that would read revise the zoning standard schedule to reflect the requirements of the R3 zoning district and provide an entry for a floor area ratio. And otherwise, it would be as proposed in the staff report from December 8th.
Okay. Any questions or comments from anyone? Not then, does someone make a motion to approve this application by adopting the staff recommendation in the staff report from December 8th as amended by Harry?
Chadwick makes that motion.
Motion made by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
Fred Russo seconds.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Vayuso in favor.
Marcy? Did we lose Marcy?
I thought I was unmuted. Marcy's in favor.
Okay, thank you, Marcy. And chair is also in favor. So that application is approved. That brings us then to the next one, which is Gene Faricelli, applicant and owner. Another straightforward application for an oversized accessory structure. And Evan, you did that one, I believe. Do you want to pull up your staff report for us?
Excuse me, Chuck.
Sure.
I need to recuse myself on this.
Okay, we'll note that Marcy is recusing herself on this one. And who's up, Harry, to vote on this?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Massimo is the only alternate in attendance.
Okay, so Massimo, you are up.
And I think this was continued from
December 8th?
No, it was set for the record on the 8th of December. So I think it was open on the 5th. So Massimo, I think you sat in on this. the last meeting. Is that right? Or am I missing something, Evan?
We
No,
didn't
you're right,
even,
Harry. I was here on the last meeting.
Yeah,
but
Evan, am I missing something?
yeah, I don't think we even considered it until tonight, right?
Oh, I know what we did. We
opened and continued.
opened it and continued it, so there was no discussion at the last meeting.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
either way, we're covered.
Okay, so we're good. Okay, so Evan, you've got your staff recommendation for us. It's a sort of the finding of compliance and that the standard condition about erosion controls. So we see the staff recommendation in Evan's report displayed in front of us. That was sent to staff report. Any comments on that? And if not, does someone want to make a motion to approve the application by adopting the findings and conditions in the staff recommendation as projected in front of us right now?
Fred Russo, motion.
Motion made. Motion made to approve by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Joe Chadwick seconds. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick.
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo.
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso.
Vayuso in favor.
Massimo.
Massimo's in favor.
And chair's also in favor. So that application is approved. That brings us then to correspondence. Do we have any correspondence, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, and there's no correspondence this week.
Okay. So that brings us then to old business. Most of these, we have public hearings scheduled. Most of them are for our next meeting on the 2nd. We have lots of public hearings on the 2nd. But I believe for item number 5 is a matter that we had waived the public hearing in our last meeting. And that's Richard Pelletier, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, 5658 Harrison Avenue, a special exception modification for a 3-family residence. Are we ready to proceed? Is the applicant ready to proceed with that one?
All right, could you make Tony Thompson a co-host?
Yeah, sorry about that. Sure. Okay, so you should be a co-host now. Tony, you should be able to unmute yourself as you wish. And share your screen.
Okay, I think I'm all set. Thank you, Harry. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Thompson, 1990 Street, plans ahead. I'm representing Richard Pelletier for the project on Harrison Avenue. He's owned the house for a number of years. He's looking to put an addition on the rear and a 1-car garage. He's hoping on living there with this expansion. We met with the Town Center Review Board and got their approval. And we provided a parking plan for the additional square footage. Evan did send me the staff report, and there was some information missing. I do have that information. We did not have the floor area total for the new project, and I have that number. And we did not have the coverage for the new proposal, and I have that number. So the floor area previous to this addition was 3,855 square feet. The addition for floor area, the proposed new addition is 670 square feet. So that's a total of 4,525 square feet of total floor area, where 2 times 2 is allowed. The total floor area of 4,525 divided into the lot size of 10,297 square feet results in 44.44% floor area. So we're well under the allotment of the multiple of 2. The coverage size is, again, the lot size is 10,297 square feet. The new coverage is including the garage, including the 2 front steps which were existing, but the remaining, there is a fairly busy fire escape, and I'm including that in that coverage calculation as well too. So the total coverage with the proposed addition garage and the fire escapes is 2,592 square, 2,592 square feet. So again, we're well under the lot coverage allowance of 100%. So those numbers, I will forward them to Evan. He did ask for them for this meeting. I don't have them formatted and ready to be sent out. But I will add, there are no other structures on the property. There's, we did comply with the setbacks. We're just hoping to get this approved to enlarge just the first floor, so a 3-story home. Smaller, lower unit. We're just looking to expand. We did make some cosmetic changes to the front, in addition to expanding the living room in the front and extending the wraparound porch as well. So that's really the application in a nutshell. If anyone has any questions.
Yes, you're not adding any units. It's just an addition.
That's correct.
Okay. Evan, did you prepare the staff report on this one?
I did. So like Mr. Thompson had described for us, they are planning to expand one of the units in an existing 3-unit multifamily home on Harrison Avenue. The Planning and Zoning Commission at our last meeting had waived the public hearing requirement. Based on the information that Tony gave us tonight, along with the survey, they meet the bulk requirements of the BC district. Landscaping plan was not provided as part of this application, and the applicant satisfies the off-street parking requirement. No outdoor lighting information was provided. However, I did put a condition that would cover any future proposed lighting. The applicant appeared at the Town Center Board meeting, like they stated before, on December 14th. They were issued a positive recommendation. And based on the application materials, it appears that the special exception criteria are generally satisfied. Staff recommends 2 conditions. 1, that all lighting has to be compliant with section 6.7. And 2, prior to the start of construction, erosion control measures shall be added to the satisfaction of the town planner or his designee if determined to be necessary.
Chuck, Chair. Thank you, Evan. Evan, I assume you want Mr. You want the data that you'd asked for the, what was it, the coverage or whatever, Mr. Thompson to provide those to you in writing or something, so we have it for our file.
Yeah, I think an email that I can just put into the file should be sufficient.
Does that work, Mr. Thompson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Questions, comments from commission members or staff? Okay, we waived a public hearing, so we don't need to open it up. Okay, then let's turn then to the staff recommendation. Again, this is on the staff report. Staff report prepared for tonight's meeting, for our January 19th meeting. And it looks like there's 2 proposed conditions for lighting. Should the lighting be proposed, it would cover that. And then the typical erosion controls, start of construction condition. So unless someone has any comments, someone might make an appropriate motion regarding this application, regarding adoption of this application in accordance by adopting the 2 conditions as proposed in the staff recommendation for this application.
Joe Ayuso moves to approve with those changes.
Okay, so Joe moves to approve the application and adopt the 2 conditions. Is there a second?
Fred Russo, I second the motion.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Still in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair is also in favor, so that application is approved. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. That brings us then to, I believe that's it for the old business. because all the other items, I believe we have public hearings scheduled under the old business. So next meeting will be a big meeting. And then for new business, we have, looks like McDonald's is back. And again, that was the one we had denied that application. That was the drive-through. Apparently they've produced additional information and we'll schedule a public hearing for that one. Harry, anything else on that just to inform the commission or?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Evan and I did review the application in terms of the traffic report with the town engineer briefly. And I think under this item, without getting the specifics of the proposal, we can present at least the memorandum from the town engineer dated today. I can put it up on my screen.
Sure.
And the scan is from John Heffley, the town engineer. He says, I've reviewed the applicant's report dated 12/23/2022, the traffic letter report dated 8/18/2022, the McDonald's property at 424, 436 West Main Street. Traffic report concludes there will be no negative impacts due to the proposed improvements. However, due to the observed traffic queue issues of the existing site and proposed improvements, potential impacts to US Route 1, I recommend the commission obtain a traffic peer review from a qualified traffic engineer in order to verify those conclusions. And that's, thank you, John F. Heffley, PE, town engineer.
Okay, so our town engineer is recommending we get a peer review, which we're entitled to do.
Right.
And would pay for a peer review of the traffic. Remember, that was an issue of traffic, moving the drive-through up last time and the potential of having queuing possibly go into the top of Branford Hill during peak time. So do we are we in agreement that we should get a peer review? Joe Chadwick, what do you think?
If I believe we should be consistent with the recommendation.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Fred?
Yes, you should get a peer review.
Okay, Joe Vayuso?
Yes, of course, definitely.
Okay, yeah, Joe, you're the you're the one that witnessed it. Marcy?
Given the last meeting and the questions that came up around traffic, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, yeah, it's a safety issue, so certainly. Okay, and so do I. So, Harry, I think there's a consensus then that we should get a peer review for this application. So, and hopefully that can get done before the public hearing. So,
yep. So just to refresh everyone's memory, there's a section of the regulations, section 914E2 on consultations that states, and any application commission may retain architect, landscape architect, professional lease plan, or the consultant review, comment, and guide, the extent allowed by town ordinance, require the applicant deposit funds with the commission to cover the cost, reimburse the commission for the cost of any consulting review. And there is a section of the town ordinance that provides for a peer review of the applicant's traffic report, and requires the applicant reimburse the town for the cost of the review. So just to refresh everyone's memory, so that's how we're operating.
Great. Okay, thank you, Harry. Do you need anything else from us, or so you're?
I don't think so. I mean, I could take that as a vote of the commission. I think everyone sort of signed it, so reported as such. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us then to other business, and we have a couple of interpretation items. First one is undersized residential lots. Harry or Evan, you want to go over that with us, what the request is, and give us some background?
Harry, should we let Tim maybe introduce it?
If you want to do that, sure. Let me make him hang on a second. I'll make him a co-host for a second. Okay, Tim, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thanks. This is about 3 hours earlier than I thought I was going to be on tonight, so thanks for moving quickly. This is my request to appear before the commission for an interpretation of section 3.9 of the regulations. And by way of background, my client has an option to purchase 2 properties, one 2 Ferry Lane and the other one at Spring Cove Road. The property at 2 Ferry Lane is 24,000 square feet. It has an existing house on it. The property at 31 Spring Cove Road is a little bit more than 1,800 square feet. And it exists by virtue of a map that got recorded in 1950. So it's a lot that predates zoning regulations in Branford, and it's a lot what seems to satisfy the undersized residential lot regulation in section 3.9. The reason why we're asking for the interpretation is that my client would like to take some of the property. Well, they intend to raise the house that's currently on 2 Ferry Road, and then they intend to do a lot line revision to take some of the square footage from the property at 2 Ferry and transfer that property to 31 Spring Cove Road. And by virtue of the lot line revision that's before you, Spring Cove would end up with a lot size of 16,235 square feet. It would still be compliant with the R3 zoning regulations. 31 Cove would go from basically 1,800 square feet to 9,045 square feet. So it would not quite meet the standards in the R3, but we would be making it more or less non-conforming than currently exists. So we had approached Harry and Evan with this proposal, and it's our position that the lot that we create, well, the lot at 31 Spring Street is an existing buildable lot under section 3.9. So the question is, if we add additional square footage to the property at Spring Cove Road, does it still qualify under section 3.9 as an undersized lot? In my opinion, I think it does, because it's an existing lot, and all we're really doing is adding square footage to that lot, which would make it less non-conforming. So I think it's an improvement all the way around. So that's the issue that we were asking the commission and staff ultimately for an interpretation of.
Chuck, I understand. Thank you, Mr. Lee. With that introduction to Evan and Harry, do you want to give us your thoughts on this?
Actually, Tim, if you could let go of control of the screen, I got to put up section 3.9 for the commission so they can see the words. Thank you. So hopefully everyone can see this. A couple of questions pop out as we were reading section 3.9. As you see, the main section here, 3.9b. So really the applicability is based on whether we have a lot owned separately from adjoining tracts and existing prior to December 3rd, 1956, with area frontage less than required by the regulations. I believe the lot's owned in common, or has been owned in common since 1956 with the adjoining property, if we're talking about the small piece that currently exists. Flash back to that map. It also presents an issue of, is it a lot? Because if you look at the definition of lot here, as I'm scrolling down, everyone can see this, right? As I'm going through this, all right. So you've got definition of lot, meets one or more of the following descriptions. Created by subdivision, no. It was created by first division occurring after 54, no. It's a parcel of land that since 56 has been owned separately. I don't know, it doesn't seem to be the case. Also contains no less than 4,000 square feet. The existing configuration of that little piece of land is about, I think, 1,500 odd. That's right, or 1,800, I can't remember exactly.
About 1,800.
1,800. So that's less. So there's that question there. And there's other section of the zoning regulations that address lots and building lots. You have section 6.1, which says a parcel of land may be used for building purposes if it is a lot, as defined by the definition section I just went over a little bit. And if it meets one or more of the following descriptions: created by subdivision, no. Created by first division after 54, no. Parcel of land that since 56 has been owned separately, and that satisfies requirements of section 8.1F which we have right here, which also has a requirement of all the preamble, provided all of the following are met. The use must conform around the respects of the regulations. The lot must contain minimum 4,000 square feet. There's a requirement here if it's not served by public water or sewer, and I believe this lot is, so that's not applicable. And if the parcel fails to meet the area requirements, the owner of the parcel must not have been at any time since the enactment of zoning regulations the owner of contiguous land that fails to conform, make a parcel conforms, or ill conforms the area, shape, or frontage. So I don't know if this, is. It seems to be problematic in that there are a lot of sections of the regulations beyond 3.9 that kind of come into play. So we have all that to put up, and I'll just leave it to the commission to discuss it. Evan, if there's anything else you want to add or any other comments that Mr. Lee, you have.
My only comment would be, I think Section 3.9 supersedes the other regulations that you had cited, and that's kind of the purpose of 3.9 is to apply to lots that existed prior to 1956. So although I appreciate that the 6.1 and those standards, I think Section 3.9 takes us out of those standards. I think I can establish that the lot was created in 1950 by virtue of filing a map on the property. My client did give me a title search of the property.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you as I sit here right now that it has never been owned. I just don't know the answer whether adjoining lots were owned in common. I can find that out. I only have the search of this particular property and not the other ones. So that is something I would get to you, Harry, if it comes to that. I just don't know the answer to that right now.
Isn't it a portion of the existing structure on the smaller lot?
No.
I mean, if you looked at the survey, the stairway and the driveway.
I'm going to stop sharing. Maybe we can put the survey back up again.
It looked like they are all, they went right to that lot.
It goes on a lot, but not the lot that's known as 31 Spring Cove Road. So if you put up the site plan map that was first up, that Evan first had up. So there are two properties at the bottom right that have garage on them, right? You see those two? Yeah. And then there's one lot next to it where it says existing lines to be extinguished.
Right.
That property is 31 Cove Road.
Right.
And that road doesn't have a structure on it. It looks like it may have a walkway.
It has the walkway that serves the other lot.
It serves the larger lot, correct?
Yeah, right. And I mean, what immediately came to mind, Mr. Lee, is that looks like it looks, if they were in common ownership, it looks like merger by intent, that they were always used as a single lot. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it begs the question as to whether the ownership is common, though. And that's
it does, yeah, but it does. But I assume that. And I don't know the answer to that, and you have to find it any time since 56, but it looked like the driveway, isn't that the only driveway serving the lot?
I think Mr. Wiedemann, who is the owner, has got his hand up. He may be able to shed light on that as well. If you'd be kind enough to make him a participant.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Bob Wiedemann. I am the property owner of this property that we're discussing tonight. I just wanted to make it clear that we do have two separate tax bills for this property. So in my opinion, the town has been considering it as two separate parcels for as long as it's been separated, as it's been shown on the map by Tim.
Well, no, I understand that there's two assessed parcels, but Tim, I'm sure you understand that this is, they appear to be used as one lot. The driveway serves that property. I don't know if they're in common ownership. That you need to find that out. But I have the questions that Harry raised, I thought were good questions, because this doesn't even meet the definition. If you ask my opinion, I think 3.9 applies to lots, which is anything over 4,000 square feet. It does. I don't know. It supersedes everything. And this is that if this lot configuration, I don't think, first of all, I think you have the merger issue, but I don't know if there's a common ownership. But then because it certainly looks like they're used. I mean, that's the only driveway for that thing. But then the second issue is the lots, it seems to be referring to the lots as it existed, and it doesn't meet the definition of a lot. So I understand what the intent of it was, is you have an undersized lot, not just a sliver, but undersized buildable lot that's been there for a long time. And this isn't a buildable lot and doesn't even meet the definition of a lot. Those are the issues that Harry's pointing out, which I have, I don't know where I come down. I'd like to find out more about what the history of it is. Have they been in common ownership? Otherwise, it's been a lot of, it certainly looks to be like they're used as one lot.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the concern about the historical use of the property, and I appreciate the concern about about determining whether there's been common ownership. I understand that. I do, I guess, disagree. I do think that Section 3.9 supersedes the other regulations, because why would you need 3.9 if the lots were compliant with the zoning regulations? So I think 3.9 is a special carve out, with the caveat that I still have to meet the other requirements in Section 3.9. I'm not trying to.
You can have lots of lots that don't. You could have an 8,000 square foot lot in the R50, in the R3 zone, and that would that would have to meet the R2. That's what I get. And but this thing doesn't meet the definition of lot to begin with. That's sort of what I understood it. That you had a pre-existing something. But this thing was really just a sliver, and it frankly looks like it was used as one lot. It's the driveway for the main house.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, and I guess obviously it's up to the commission to decide. I will go back and get Harry and town staff the additional information regarding the ownership of the lots and see where we stand on that, to see if it's something that we want to pursue, or whether it's something we take to the zoning board of appeals and argue that we can come close to a lot, we just can't make it.
Sure.
But once again,
absolutely.
we'd be reducing the nonconformity. So
yeah, no, I understand. You can go to the ZBA with it. I understand that absolutely. Right.
I guess my question is that if you have a lot which is defined by certain meets and bounds, and you add property to it, add add area to it, therefore changing the meets and bounds, does the old lot lose its identity and suddenly this becomes the new lot with the new dimensions?
that was our hope, that we create a new lot with the new dimensions, and that since it was our position that 31 Cove is a buildable lot under Section 3.9, instead of being able to build on 1,800 square feet, we could then build on roughly 8,000 square feet. Or almost 10,000 square feet. That was what we were trying to accomplish.
Right, but the lot was something that was created today, not in December 3rd, 1956.
Yeah,
that's where I'm scratching my head on the problem of identity of what a lot is relative to the date which the permission is granted.
It's a good question, and that's kind of what prompted us to write the letter to the Planning and Zoning Commission asking for the interpretation. We kind of had the same questions and the same issues, and we weren't quite sure how to resolve that issue. So it was suggested by Evan and by Harry that we write to the commission and have an informal discussion. So I appreciate your concern or your questions.
Joe Vayuso, could I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. Go ahead.
One lot you said was going to be, if you wanted, your proposal is to have it increased to what, 10,000 square feet?
Yeah, 9,745, correct.
What would the other lot be?
16,225.
So how many family houses would you qualify for that? That 9,000 turn into a two-family dwelling lot possible if it was to be enacted?
I don't think it would, as of right.
I thought you mentioned about minimum of 4,000 per family.
Yeah, it wouldn't be able to do that because we would still be non-compliant with the zoning district. We'd only be able to build. So our argument would be 31 Cove's a buildable lot. We make it bigger, it's still a buildable lot, but it still doesn't comply with zoning requirements. And because it doesn't comply with the zoning requirements, we wouldn't be able to put a 2-family house there. We may be able to put a 1-family house there.
How many? Well, how many houses are there? How many families are there now? Just one?
One.
Combination, all the property.
2 Ferry Street has an existing house. That's a 1-family house. 31 Spring Street is currently an undeveloped lot.
That's the driveway for the other house.
Marcy Paluzzi here. Could you show the map again? Doesn't the house cover both the 2 Ferry Street and 31 Spring Cove Road?
The house covers, the house is going to come down, but the current house covers 2 Ferry Lane and also some other properties on Cove Street, but not the property at 31 Cove Street. It's kind of it's a through lot basically.
Right, and you're trying to adjoin 31 to Cove Street so that it's two lots for the one house.
So what basically, with that picture right there, the house would come down, right? And then we draw a line from 31 to up to Ferry Lane. That would become the property known as 31 Cove Street. And then the other house would be 2 Ferry Lane, or the other property would be 2 Ferry Lane. And under our version of events, we'd be able to put a single family house on 2 Ferry Lane and then a single family house on 31 Cove.
But the point is, the entire house is being split between the 2 lots now, whether you add this additional land or not.
Well,
is there something about the architecture that I'm missing? I'm sorry.
No. The current house, the current structure of the house is on 2 Ferry, is entirely on 2 Ferry Lane. A portion of the walkway or driveway is on 31 Cove Street, but no portion of the dwelling itself is on 31 Cove Street.
Well, what's on 31 Cove Street? I can see it in the image. It looks like the property line between, not the new piece, the piece
No, that's not
between 31 Cove Street, where the front circular to the left.
That is 31 Cove Road, what Evan's circling there, Marcy, I believe. That's the existing 31 Cove, which I believe is owned in common with 2 Ferry Lane.
I'm not
it's certainly
talking about
used
the
in
little
common.
parcel. I'm not talking about the little parcel. I'm talking about the property line between 31, the corner lot, and 2 Ferry Street.
You mean the proposed lot? That's proposed. They haven't done that yet. That is proposed.
That's a proposed house.
That's a proposed lot line, and within that new enlarged 31 Spring Cove Road, they're hoping to build a single family house apparently. And on the remaining land of 2 Ferry Lane, they would apparently build another single family house and take down the one that's there now. Yes.
That's what
my understanding. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Were they in common, Tim, you must know this, were they in common ownership when you bought it or when you purchased or?
I wasn't involved in the closing, so I don't know.
Okay.
I do have a title search for 31 Cove. So I can go through that. I don't have the other searches.
Okay, sure.
Harris with Town Plan, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, everyone, but it boils down to, if you look back at section 3.9, which we can put up again, there we go, great. 3.9B1A, is this a lot, in quotes, as we have to default to the definition outside of 3.9, that's in the definition section, I think in 2.2 that we went over. And then also, I think the issue that Joe Chadwick kind of highlighted, what is, let's just get beyond the lot part and say existing prior to December 3rd, 1956. We're talking about a lot, parcel, land, whatever, in the configuration that it existed in as of December 3rd, 1956, not in any kind of modified condition. So the enlarged to whatever. So those would be 2 questions, I think, that I see in trying to interpret this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, I'd like to get more about the you know, we'll get more data about what the title search is, the common ownership
Yeah.
issue.
So do you want to put this off then, or?
Yeah, I think we should get
Okay.
more information and then we
Okay.
can, yeah. We may want the town attorney to roll in. I don't know.
Okay,
Well,
fair
thanks
enough.
for the time. It's an interesting discussion and interesting use of the property. So I appreciate your time and your consideration. And I will get some supplemental information over to Harry and Evan, and we can maybe take it up at some point in time in the future.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you.
Okay, that's that one. And then the other one, interpretation question about assembly halls. What's going on with that one, Evan or Harry?
Evan, you want to
Sure.
summarize it?
We received an inquiry from a potential tenant for 249 West Main Street. I'll pull up the GIS map. But they want to occupy the space that was formerly CS Grow Daycare Center. And the way he described the proposal initially to me was a catering hall without catering, an event hall, and let me just share my screen real quick. So it's this property here, and it's this building in the back that they would occupy. And it's actually the unit that has the outdoor space with it. So the gentleman came in and he inquired about what use approval would be needed for him to occupy this space. I wasn't quite sure which use category to throw him into. And he described it as he would plan to rent out the space to musical acts. I think he said mainly to DJs, but also for weddings or parties, sweet 16s, that sort of thing. And those people would be responsible for bringing the food pre-prepared at another site for that event to there. However, he did plan to serve alcohol at the facility, and I assume make money off of that. Essentially, we want to know, do you think this falls into the category of assembly hall? It would require a special exception from the Planning and Zoning Commission, so they would have to come before you. And I guess our concern was it doesn't quite fit into what we had in mind for what a theater or assembly hall was. And I think we also had concerns about if this property began to operate more like a bar or a nightclub, how would there be any sort of enforcement to it? Especially given that there are residences around this property. So yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think.
Thanks, Evan. And I guess, you know, the question, what are similar uses? How have we characterized? I mean, it's like and I mentioned Woodwinds. I know there's a place next to Donovan's downtown where they, you know, it's part of a PDD. I know it's separate, but the use seems similar. They would rent it out to, you know, people who want to have a parties or a bachelorette party or something like that. That's what it looks like. So I guess the question is, what use category would it come within? I mean, not a restaurant, because I don't think they're bringing their own food in. They're not preparing food. They want to serve alcohol. That's a separate liquor permit, I guess. But that's by the state, not us. I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like, how would you characterize the use, and is it allowed? And you know, and I guess theater and assembly halls. And I guess, you know, is there any precedent anywhere else where we've approved these things? So,
Chuck, Fred Russo, how about like the brewery? How is that considered? Is that really assembly hall? Liquor sold? There's no food? Seems kind of similar to that.
Harry Smith Town Planner, that's in a PDD, so that came in with its own separate, tailored, if you will, use definition under the PDD. So as a brewery, it was sort of a use definition was created for it. So that's how that operates. And some of the other things are sort of accessory, if you will. Some of the events they have
How about the
occasionally.
other breweries that we have in Branford? Are those came in how? How are they?
I'll have to go back and look. I think we've created a definition somewhere. One question that did come up with this is, this is a verbal description by the person who inquired about this. So it's, frankly, to me, a little vague. I don't know exactly what's this person's proposing, or he seems to have sort of a, a laundry list of things they could do. So I think, I don't know, we were thinking of going back to him and saying, what do you exactly want to do so we can better, staff and the commission think about where it might fit. Because it seems to be kind of a collection of things, and also the way it seems that he's proposing to manage it is basically he's renting the space out and he's sort of the landlord, and people come in, have an event, and they're managing their own event and they leave. So it's not even sort of a continual ongoing management of it. I mean, I don't know how, involved he would be in managing the events. So there's a lot of, questions about how it would operate and what it would actually be. I mean, it could vary from who he's renting it to. He could want to add in something that he did, put in his list of things he reiterated to us, or, and it just could be sort of, open-ended, which makes it hard to define.
So I don't think it would be unfair to ask exactly what the use is going to be. The description that we have, I agree with you, very, very vague. And it could be anything. It could be, a saloon for all we know. I would just say this. If you looked at that building, you looked at its location, you look at all the blacktop around it, no one's going to have a wedding there, okay? Or probably a party of any sort. It looks like it lends itself to a DJ, a club. That's what it appears to me. I may be wrong. I think we need him to, whoever the owner is or whatever happens, have them define exactly, so that at least we know what we're talking about. I think the description is so vague, there's no way you can honestly have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
Hi, Massimo here. If I could chime in, it also seems like it could be like sort of like a Elks or an Italian American club that could fall under a category like that, possibly. Not sure, but if they're going to be selling alcohol, and make a bar out of that, then he could just, he could have events on his weekends or whatever they book it, but he'll probably, it seems like he'll have a license in a bar open for business throughout the entire week or weekend. But yeah, I think we need, more of a description on exactly what he's trying to propose here.
Harry, do you have a square footage or what's the capacity of people that they have there?
That I don't know. Wasn't this a daycare, Evan? Is that what this has been?
Yeah, and I looked up the Zillow or LoopNet advertisement this afternoon. I think it said it was a 2,000 square foot space with some outdoor space that they would be able to utilize as well. Just because the state required that playgrounds or that daycares have a designated playground outdoor area. So this site formerly had to comply with that requirement, and now this unit has that outdoor space.
So, and just to talk about the analogy to like the Elks or something, or the Italian American club, those come under a definition that's called club, lodge, or fraternal organization, private and operated for the benefit of the members and not for gain. So if they constituted as something like that, that could fall into that category. But I think what he's vaguely talking about doesn't seem to fit there, because he's not mentioning any kind of club or fraternal organization being involved in it.
Yeah, when this first showed up on my email today, my first thought was, oh, he wants to make toads, except to have food.
Oh, down in New Haven, yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah, that could be a possibility of what he might be envisioning,
It is From a building code standpoint, it is clearly going to be an assembly occupancy. But from a zoning perspective, and granted, it's not within our jurisdictions to second guess his business plan. When I think of the people losing their minds over stuff that goes on at Stony Creek Brewery, I think you're going to need probably one party running a little late, and you're going to have all those neighbors losing their minds on this. I don't know. I've got so many more questions than just simply what zoning classification. I could appreciate assembly as being the reasonable category to put it in, because we're really bereft of any other, anything else within the zoning taxonomy does not give a comfortable place to hang this.
Yeah.
Do we allow nightclubs anywhere? We don't, probably, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Where is this at? West Main?
This is all the way down in Lakeview Plaza.
The back.
The way in the back, Lakeview Plaza. The back building.
The farthest back building.
Yep. In the back. Yeah.
Back.
So it's behind that back building, actually, the part of the back building, and there's an area behind it that I guess they were using for the daycare for, enclosed play area.
Yeah, okay. I know where it is.
It would be great if you could find out if he does this now anywhere. And,
ask him that.
And how the town characterizes it and whether there's been problems.
Okay. And we can ask him to write up something maybe in terms of what he's proposing to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Hey, Harry, Marcy here. Just a quick question. I missed when you told me what the current zone was for this property.
BL.
Okay, thank you.
At least I think so. Yes, it is.
So I guess we'll go back to him and try to get some more information before go any further. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Harry, Fred Russo, I think we do our best work. We have the most amount of information about an applicant. When an applicant comes in and is vague, maybe intentionally, it makes it very difficult to decide what you have to do there. I think if I were an applicant and I had an idea, I would want to kind of spill the beans to the town planner so I could get as much help from the town as I could to get myself in there. I think being vague could possibly be intentional, but the idea that, hey, once I get in there, I can kind of almost do anything I want. So I would definitely say we need something very, very specific, not just something vague.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments or suggestions to Harry and Evan on this?
Hi, it's Marcy again. I just want to respond to Mr. Russo's comment about vague. I think when you've got an idea and you're thinking about leasing the space and you're evaluating what the costs are and you haven't, you're probably new to business, it's going to be vague. And I think coming into Harry initially is a good thing because he's starting to hone in on what he can and can't do for the space and what might or might not be allowed relative to, the business venture he's considering and what he wants to do. So I don't mind the vagueness, but I just, when you said that, my response was, a vague question will often result in a vague answer. And, if he's developing a business plan, he really needs to, we all need to get past the vague to, be able to give him clear information and for us to make a clear decision one way or the other. I don't know if that helps, but that's That's just sort of my perspective.
Thanks, Marcy. Any other comments? Okay, Harry Evan, you got enough to go further with this?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then the next item on the agenda is the planner's report.
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Going back to a couple of items we were talking about previously at the last meeting. One being training requirements that kick in this year. So I think I sent out a memorandum to the commission with some information on the Yukon Center for Land Use Education and Research, CLEAR, Land Use Academy training, which I highly recommend, particularly for some of the newer members, basic training. There's a follow-up email that went around that I will send out. I don't think I sent it out to the commission yet because it came in, I think, yesterday. And these are some, there's going to be online definitive sessions offered for the 3 classes they offer. One being bias, predisposition, and conflicts, presented by attorney Richard Roberts. Number 2 is running a meeting and making a decision, presented by, I think it's attorney Kenneth Slater. And fair and affordable housing, presented by attorney Mark Brantz. So those, I believe, maybe canned presentations. If not, but I think they're going to run them anyway. So there may be some interactive possibilities there. I also sent on both of those web links to the CLEAR webpage, and there's I think was mentioned discussion in the last commission meeting by Sharon Hutner that there is some other web sessions that were previously from the Connecticut Bar Association that Wesleyan quotes session from other years, but that, you know, the best thing to do is to go to this year's if you can. I think one of the commission members has already signed up. So I'd encourage other folks to check that out. I provided a full copy of the brochure for that program with all the sessions and the information. I believe you know, if you want to fill this out and send it in, we can send it in for you. Probably easier given how, you know, the process to cut checks and so forth here. If you want to pay for it yourself, and once you've attended, submit a request for reimbursement with the department line item budget for training and so forth, we can reimburse you for the cost of going to this. I think it's $45, and you get a very nice reference manual as well. And then there's another email just came out, I think maybe yesterday, today, about a training calendar that's being put together, I believe, by CLEAR. So I will get all that information out to the commission members, but just wanted to highlight that this resource is, you know, pulling themselves together, frankly, to provide the training that commissioners need. If you go through these things, it'd be very helpful to, I think, all concerned. If you know, we'll try to keep track of who attends what. So we have a file here. If anyone ever questions, hey, did so-and-so get their hours of training? We'll have some kind of record of everyone's attendance at different functions and events. So if you do, for example, get on the CLEAR website and watch some of the presentations or go to these time designated ones, let us know so we can document that you've attended and keep track of that. Any questions about any of that?
Thanks, Harry. So each of us has to get 4 hours during this calendar year. Is that right?
That's right. And I also sent around as a summary of the training of the requirements put together, I think, by the Office of Policy and Management. So it gives you the menu of what you need to do according to the new state law.
So excuse me, Harry. Right now, the CEU requirement for architects is kind of a hot mess.
Okay.
So is there any more clarity for land use boards? And you said you're going to be keeping a file. So we're keeping a file and we're just going to sort of like hold tight and hope it all holds together.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a work in progress. So
Okay.
they're rolling this stuff out, frankly. It's state law that I don't know if anybody's clearly designated as the state agency or whatever in charge of putting this thing together. It looks like the Office of Policy and Management has jumped in, at least in this training guideline. You've got the Center for Land Use Education offering workshops they've offered in the past. They used to, do these things. If you express interest, they come down at a roadshow. They would come down and present the stuff. So they have that available online now, and I think more things are going to develop as time goes on.
The Regional Planning Commission may be coming up with something too.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
So,
Clear has had some really great, presentations over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's just that, they're fun to watch, but as far as the problem of recording and reporting, that ends up
right.
diaphanous.
Yeah, exactly. And there is no central coordinating. I mean, I need continuing education requirements for my credential too, and there's a national organization. They keep track of it, and I need to log them in, and there's a whole process online to do that through this organization. But there's nothing I know of that is filling that role for this kind of thing in the state yet. So I think we all have to keep track of it ourselves, and we'll try to keep track of it. Whatever folks give us, we'll keep track of it too. But I think individual members should keep track of what you're doing somewhere, so we can all be sure we're complying with this and getting educated. Anything else on this? No? Okay. I did follow up also with the Desegregate Connecticut folks, and got an email back from a person on their, I guess, what they call it, their organizing committee. And they are fine with coming in later in March, possibly when our application load hopefully slacks off a little bit. They have a page on their website devoted to their latest initiative, where they call Work, Live, Ride. And I will send this out to the commission members. I also kind of Googled that, and I came up with found, I guess they've already made a couple presentations to other communities, one being Old Saybrook. And there is I think, YouTube recording of their presentation. It's a little specific to Old Saybrook, but you can get a better idea of what they're proposing. It seems to be more of an incentive, a process with some additional technical resources and possibly some money, rather than the mandate of additional density around half a mile around the train station that was proposed in the last legislative session, I believe, and turned down. So it's a little different proposal, and we can all learn more about it. And they're willing to come in a little later when it makes sense to us. Whether we do as a special meeting or not, we'll just figure that out as we get closer to the March.
Are they accredited as a CEU?
Desegregate Connecticut?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look into that. Maybe as affordable housing. I don't know if they've cast this thing as that. So I don't think so. But again, I don't know who is, there's no body that says this thing is okay for the training requirement and this thing isn't. I don't know how that's working, frankly. So I appreciate your, frustration with the ambiguity of the whole business. And the only thing I'd like to mention, I guess, is that been working for quite a while with a couple other folks about changes to the landscaping regulations, one being the main person, Shirley McCarthy, who's on a couple of different groups. And that is getting close to the point where they want to propose something as a zoning regulation amendment. So they'll probably be coming in the next month or so. And that's pretty much all I have. Evan, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Okay.
Okie doke. Does anyone else have anything else? not, then I think we will have, it looks like the next one, there's a lot of public hearings at our next meeting. It'll probably be a long one. They have the 11 lot subdivision on Cherry Hill Road. And just a lot of like 6 or 7, they're smaller applications, but you know, they're applications, so they're on there, so.
Yeah. I will get in touch with the applicant for 175 Cherry Hill Road. I have not heard anything new in terms of revised plans. I know they were going to, they did make the additional application, but I've got no revised materials yet, so.
Okey doke.
Right.
Okay, if not, someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion by Chadwick.
Motion to adjourn by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
Fred Russo seconds.
Second by Fred. Further discussion. All in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair is also in favor. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.